everybody. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connarton, and this is, of course, the Honorable Gary S. Hopper. How are you, Gary?
I don't think it's any of your business, Matt. So, anyway...
He's trying to be nice. Jeez. Oh.
So, anyway, I got a new hand grenade, Matt.
Yes.
So, life is good. So, the answer is yes.
So, you're doing well.
Good. Yes, because I got a new hand grenade.
What happened to the other ones? Did you detonate them?
No, I still got them.
Oh.
Because I was at the gun show Sunday, and I saw a hand grenade. I haven't seen the one with the rib. This is the Korean era with a rib for, I was going to say your pleasure, but I guess that's probably not what it's for. I guess it's for a better grip.
Yes. Not ribbed for your pleasure.
No.
Ribbed for your death,
yes,
really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's could be pleasurable if you like blowing stuff up.
Right, exactly,
So that's probably what they mean.
Yeah.
That's why they added that.
Now, is this more humane or less humane than the...
This is more humane than the pineapple grenade.
Okay.
But I think it might be less humane than the baseball.
Okay. Huh.
We got, for our guest today, Jack Kimball, who was the state party chair, and as always, Representative Heichel, who is...
Number 6.
Just crazy. He's just crazy.
Number 6 time on this show.
6th time?
You are officially... he's our most frequent guest by far, I would say.
You're the perennial guest.
I am. I know,
You
it feels
would-
like Johnny Carson.
It doesn't show
Yeah.
much for your judgment, though, John. I mean, really. So anyway, I got the hand grenade, and I was walking to the show today because I remember I walked like 25 blocks uphill.
Yes, which is good
both
for you.
ways
I
to the
admire your
show.
fortitude.
Yes,
start-
5-2. It was
start
one
around-
way. It was 5-2.
Really? Wow.
So I was walking to the show, and I pulled the hand grenade, and I started walking along with it in my hand. Then I was thinking of what happened in Boston yesterday, and says, maybe that's not such a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put that in my pocket.
But how often do you get to say, I was walking to the show, I pulled out my hand grenade.
And I said, wait a minute. Then I got shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, they're not fooling around out there.
No, they're getting. I guess theoretically they picked up somebody in Newton, New Hampshire. I got the picture anyway. There's a if you can call the picture up. This is the supposedly the picture of the guy actually that planted the bomb.
Really?
They picked him up today in New Hampshire, brought him down to the courthouse in Boston. They cleared out the courthouse, and then brought him in, and he is in custody supposedly.
I didn't.
Well, they've called off the press conferences twice, so they're obviously dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's, because they don't want to let this information out quite yet.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not out then.
No.
So ignore
No.
what I just said.
Yeah. That should be the jury should ignore that. Strike that from the
strike
record.
that from the record.
However that works. Yeah.
So what else happened today? Kelly Ayotte, who was pretty ambiguous about whether or not she was going to support the background checks, came through for the gun owners in New Hampshire and voted against the background checks.
Right.
So that amendment just failed a couple hours ago.
It failed pretty substantially, though. That was a good thing, and I'm very pleased that Senator Ayotte did that. I was getting concerned. She did the right thing, and I think a lot of the folks in New Hampshire wrote to her and let her know, come on, this is critical.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is what people think. If you listen to the lamestream media and listen to the demon craps up in Washington D.C. you would think that the background checks are necessary to close some loophole. Well, the fact of the matter is, and I don't know what the other states are doing, and the other states have the right to do what they want, but in New Hampshire, I could sell my .380 that I got in my pocket to John or you legally, okay, without any paperwork. Jack, I just met today, so that would be inappropriate for me to sell it to him. The state law says you can sell a handgun to anybody known to you.
Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting.
So there already is a law again. You can't just put a handgun on a table at a yard sale and sell it to the first guy that comes by.
Right.
Now, if I put it on Facebook that I was trying to get rid of a 9mm because I want somebody else's fingerprints on it, you know what I mean. And John responded to that would be okay, but if some friend that's just a friend on Facebook that I really don't really know or haven't really met, that would be illegal for me to sell it to them.
Right.
That's already the law in New Hampshire. And that can be the law anywhere else in the country. So this gun hole loophole is really a bunch of garbage. And the one that they were trying to pass in Washington, D.C., and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe included me handing down my firearms to my son.
To your son, your relatives, and your family. It's insanity.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they were talking about, and it was part of this, I believe, being able to prove that the weapon is yours. Now, I don't know about you, but I would lose half my weapons if that were the case. I mean, most of us don't have, if they were older weapons, bills of sale or anything showing that. You know, I mean, so, and let's be honest, none of this really and truly is going to solve any issues with respect to what we saw happen at Sandy Hook. I mean, this is all feel-good stuff as far as I'm concerned, and you're upsetting a whole lot of law-abiding citizens and potentially making them criminals, and it just makes no rational sense at all.
No, and if, as somebody pointed out on Facebook today, I guess the bomb that the dirtbag created had a bunch of nails in it.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing out of the people in Washington, D.C.'s mouth today, day after, wasn't, oh, we got to make nails illegal.
Right. Make you have to register them or something.
Yeah, you have to register all your
nails.
2 penny nails, but the 1 penny nails are okay, and the 5 penny nails you have to get special.
Let me ask you though, with the background checks, isn't it a matter of if we enforce existing laws? Isn't some of this a matter of if we just enforce the existing laws consistently, we don't necessarily need additional laws, like so many things, because politicians always have to look like they're doing something. And like you said, Jack, you use that term feel-good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, people like liberals need to satisfy their constituency to look like they're doing something, even if it has no chance of actually going anywhere. Yeah. But if you enforce the existing laws, why do we even need to do these additional things? You know what I mean?
That's very true. I mean, and the other thing that people need to realize, particularly your listeners, this isn't about gun control. It's about control, and it's also about eventual gun confiscation. I know that this is where this is ultimately going to attempt to be or wind up being, but I sat in front of that television after Sandy Hook occurred in tears. I mean, I had 2 granddaughters, one 13, one 12. There wasn't any of us that weren't affected by this.
Sure.
And the very next day, it's politicized. I mean, that's the thing that's maddening to me. You're not going to save a single life by doing what they're doing now, but you can cause the loss of life by taking guns away from law-abiding citizens who need them to defend themselves in situations like this. To me, that's exactly what's going to happen here. And let's be honest, the Second Amendment it's not about hunting, and it's definitely not totally about self-defense. The Second Amendment is the protector of the entire Constitution. It is the reason it's second.
It's the teeth.
That's the teeth. Without it, we lose it all. And that's why most of us are very rabid about this, because we see that this is eroding. They want to gut the Second Amendment. We can't allow that to happen. We have to make sure that never happens.
I think if you look at what happened right after Sandy Hook, and you check the background of it, Feinstein came out with legislation almost immediately. It wasn't that Sandy Hook happened, she says, we've got to do something about this, and came up with legislation. The legislation was there waiting for an event so that she could act on it.
That's exactly right.
Okay? It was not the reverse. It wasn't like it was portrayed like, oh, we're going to put our heads together and come up with something. They already had something. They wanted to pass it, and they'd been waiting for an opportunity, and that was it. They wanted to strike while the iron's hot to get rid of our constitutional rights.
My 13-year-old granddaughter, who goes to Rochester, she's in the Rochester school system, and they have, it was funny, the day after this happened, she came to my house and she said, Papa, she said, we have the same security system that they had at Sandy Hook with the same alarm system. And she said, and that man shot right through the door. He got in. It didn't even slow him down. And I said, I know, that's pretty bad. She said, yeah, but we have the same lockdown drills in our school that they did. And she said, I always have thought about that because they put us back in the corner of the room. So all of us kids with the teacher are back in the corner of the room. They got the door locked. And I have always wondered, what if somebody with a gun broke that door down and came in the room?
Right.
And I said, well, what were you thinking? She said, I don't know about the rest of them, but I'm going out the window. I said, but you're on the second floor. She says, I know. Now, this is a 13-year-old. I said, well, what do you think? This is the God's honest truth. What do you think should be the case? If the teacher had a weapon, the first step in the door, that would end the problem. And I'm thinking, absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. But you got to have willing teachers. They got to be willing. I don't believe in forcing anybody to do any of this.
Right.
And they got to be trained.
Well, that's true, but it doesn't even have to be all the teachers, and it doesn't have to
just
be
a few.
It doesn't even have to be any of the teachers. I'll tell you why. Because all you have to do is say we are training teachers and or the people. What are the people that clean up or
The janitors.
maintenance people and stuff
Yep.
like that? Anyone that is willing to, we are training, and they will be in the schools and they will be armed. We're not going to tell you who they are.
They shouldn't.
Okay, so you could actually have a school that didn't have any guns in it at all, but as long as a criminal don't know that, it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's a valid deterrent. You could actually put a sign out front. That was the other thing I advocated for. It basically says, warning, if you intend to cause harm to our children, the people in this school are armed and trained.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have some way to deter these folks, and you've got to make sure that there's some teeth in it. And, I don't think there's anything wrong, again, if they're willing, to have 1, 2, or 3 people in the school that are willing to carry concealed. The kids won't even know who has a weapon, so that we can end things like this, so that they don't get to have 5 unabetted minutes to murder as many little innocent kids as they want.
I think we could also do something along the lines of, I know we've had cops in school forever,
Yep.
is start cross-training them so they can actually teach too. Instead of, because the taxpayer's already paying them $60,000 a year, let them teach something,
It's an interesting idea.
Well, Sheriff Arpaio out in Arizona, love that guy, but out in Arizona, I mean, right away when this happened, I mean, he just went out and got, deputized folks and prior military and some, and right away he put folks, he didn't put them inside the school, he had them outside the school, just as a deterrent. But there are things you can do. I just hate that people, that the gun owners of this country, right now anyway, are being demonized. And it's only because there's an effort to want to demonize them in order to achieve, meaning President Obama, achieve his ideologic gun-grabbing result. I mean, he clearly wants to do this, and he's going to go forward with it regardless of what happens with the Senate. I truly believe that we still have a lot to fear, because I think he'll go outside of this. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to try it.
I personally think it's all for show. Especially because the thing is, in Congress, in the United States Congress, you have a lot of, like Harry Reid, for example, obviously probably the most powerful Democrat in Congress, is very pro NRA.
Yeah, he voted against the amendment today too.
Yeah, he's I mean, I heard him even saying positive things about Wayne LaPierre, which is kind of unusual for a Democrat. But a lot of these, you've got your Northeastern liberals and your West Coast liberals like Feinstein. But you've also got a lot of these Southern Democrats, Southwestern Democrats who are actually very pro Second Amendment. And I think they're kind of the firewall. That's why I feel like so much of this is for show, to satisfy the liberal base of the party, because they know it's not going anywhere. Feinstein needs Reid to do what she wants to do, and Reid isn't interested, and a lot of these guys aren't. So
no, because they really like getting reelected.
Yeah, but
and the NRA supports them too.
You have to segregate out you can include the politics of this if you want, but what I say is there's a whole different thing happening here. If you look at New Jersey, if you look at New York, if you look at Connecticut, if you look at Colorado, all and their liberal, government, liberal governors, and I'll give you a good example. Colorado's governor, because his sheriff stood tall and said, we will not enforce any of the gun laws that you just passed. It's unconstitutional. We're not going to do it. We answer to the people. And that didn't make him very happy, so what did he do? He went ahead and passed a bill that basically said the Secret Service and other federal organizations have the permission to come in and arrest the sheriffs of his own state if they refuse to enforce the laws that they passed. I said in my speech last Saturday, I said, sheriffs of Colorado, go arrest your governor. I mean, it's time. I mean, this is serious stuff. And I think the other thing is they already started gun confiscation in New York City, pistols, handguns. And my wife's a nurse. HIPAA is a big deal, of course. But what they're doing is they're sending letters to people who have that they found out are taking an anti-anxiety drug or two. And basically that's it. You got to turn your guns in. So it's already started. So we've got to there's a lot of backdoor confiscation going on. The one thing I saw, a couple of friends of mine that have military folks that just got out recently. Now, a lot of these guys have PTSD. I said this in my talk last Saturday,
Sure.
but they have it when they're in. So, they get treated, but they're sent back into battle. They still carry their M16. They bleed and they die for us. And then they get out, and a month or two later, they get a letter that says, hey, you got PTSD or you have a traumatic injury, and you can't carry weapons. You can't have them. We got to take your weapons. So a lot of this is going on. It's not highly publicized, but it's backdoor stuff. It does exist, and we do have, I believe, and I gently disagree, but I do believe there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's backdoor confiscation, and he's going to get more public. See, I think that even if we have the strength in the Senate, the numbers in the Senate said I can't get to 60. I do believe he said it. If he can't get it done through Congress and the Senate, I'll do it myself. And he doesn't hide it, so he's going to try.
And the other thing too is if you look at just the legislative angle, there was fundamentally nothing in the gun bill overall that was substantially different than what Connecticut already had as laws.
Yep, you're right.
There was no way that background checks or anything else that they were proposing would have prevented Sandy Hook.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
The whole premise is so insane. The idea is that this nutcase, because obviously the kid's nuts, he's probably on medication for all kinds of weird stuff. The idea that he is going to be deterred by an extra law when he's already going to murder kids.
The criminals,
I believe that's
going to
illegal.
break the laws.
I believe murdering children is still illegal in all 50 states.
Certainly is.
Except Alaska.
And, the other thing...
Alaska's...
I don't get it.
And the other thing you look at is, and this is a big deal, and people need to realize that the vast majority, in fact, the last 50 of these types of shootings have occurred in gun-free zones.
Yeah.
This is a big issue. And, I'm sorry, but we need to abolish gun-free zones. So if there were people on the premises of a lot of these shootings in the movie theater and so forth that had weapons and were concealed carry, a lot of these, I can't say that you can't predict you're going to solve them all.
Sure.
But certainly some. And saving lives is a big deal. And I think that you've got to stop this craziness. The only people who will obey the law in a gun-free zone are the people that ought to be carrying the weapons in the first place. Because the criminals certainly they're going to go. This is like a candy store. I can go in. I'm going to be unchallenged, and I can take down whoever I want and how many people I want. It's going to take a long time for the police to get there. Plus, it seems to me most of them want to kill themselves anyway. So it's a fait accompli. They're willing to do that.
Yeah, they basically get if it's a gun-free zone, they get about 10 minutes to
Free.
kill as many people as they want before anything could ever possibly happen to them.
We can let a lot of rounds off in 10 minutes,
Oh, yeah.
whether they're high-capacity magazines or
Oh,
not.
absolutely, yeah.
So that's another issue. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can slap 3 10-round magazines in my M4 and lose maybe only a second and a half doing it. This is a bogus argument. I'm just the high-capacity magazines, semi-automatic weapons.
Did you hear that congresswoman from Colorado who, I don't know if she's a federal congressman or a state legislator, but she's a co-sponsor of the bill to reduce the caps, the high-capacity magazines. And somebody asked her, says, well, you realize there's, 30 million high-capacity magazines out there already out there. And she said, and I'm paraphrasing, well, that's okay. After they shoot off the rounds, those will all be gone.
They were gone.
She thought that they were all the same thing. Like, there was like a group of 30 rounds. You put it in the gun, you shoot it, and it's gone. So therefore, once you pass this law, those will all disappear over time.
But that's scary all by itself.
It's insane that she has no clue.
They have no idea how these guns operate. She probably never fired one, and they're trying to make gun laws. Please, that's pretty funny.
And the fact that the same people who like Bloomberg and Feinstein, they all walk around with all these bodyguards.
Yeah.
So they don't want you to be able to protect yourself when they're walking around with bodyguards.
I think it's time for about 2 or 3 million New Yorkers to walk around with 20-ounce big gulps at the same time. I would just like to see what happens. I mean, just me. In a nonviolent protest, 2 or 3 million New Yorkers walked around with 20-ounce big gulps. I would just like to see how they handle that.
Maybe if we made like a an AR-15, 20-ounce AR-15
That you drink out of.
drink out of,
Oh, that's even a better idea.
right?
That
And
could
you
be your
start-
next invention.
Just start selling them and cotton picking.
Nice.
Look, when you can suspend a child for accidentally turning a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, and we have gotten to the point of ridiculousness that is
That
beyond
happened?
the pale.
yeah,
I didn't hear this story.
Yeah,
really?
the poor little kid, how old was he, 7, 8? He was trying to munch a Pop-Tart into the shape of a mountain, and he said, and it came out wrong. It came out looking like a gun, and they didn't think that was right, so I got suspended for 2 days.
Wow, where was that? Do you remember?
I forget this thing.
Yeah, I
Big
saw
story.
it, yeah.
Wow,
And they put the kid on TV. Great little kid,
no
you know.
kidding. Wow.
So we're insane. I mean, I don't, and then another kid was suspended the other day. I don't know what the state was because he made his finger in the shape of a gun. That's sheer insanity.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids, particularly in the Midwest, used to years ago, they bring their guns to school. I mean, put them in their locker. That was just normal life. God forbid, that's never going to happen.
Well, I was
again.
actually, when I was in, grew up for at least a few of my formative years, but in Stowe, Massachusetts, and we used to take our guns on the bus because I was on the shooting team.
Right.
And that was in the
Yeah.
70s.
Check them in at the principal's office and
No, you just put 'em in the
actually, it was
locker.
no, it was in the, we put them in the shop because the shop teacher was the
oh yeah.
firearm
There's your little
instructor.
armory.
Yeah, that was the armory.
Yeah,
So,
days
but
are-
that
things have
was
changed.
pretty typical. Now if they draw a picture of them, they're little arch criminals.
Yes.
They're probably coded too, so later on these are Pete kids to watch out for. They're
Just
terrorists.
give him some Ritalin.
Yeah,
Well, everybody else has it.
Exactly.
exactly. Anyway,
Ritalin solves everything. These children have energy.
these
Give them
yes.
Ritalin.
Lord forbid a little boy should be active.
Let's slow them down.
Slow them down. Let's make them like the girls.
Well, now you can't even have. It was Wyndham, and they ended dodgeball with Nerf balls. Too dangerous. They may have head injuries.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, this
Oh,
is.
I know, yeah. Yeah,
It all started, by the way, with t-ball. I'm sorry, but I'm a ball player from way back, and I said to myself when they started t-ball, I know I'm ticking off a lot of people, but. Where's the challenge,
So,
folks? I
okay,
mean, it's
so-
not even moving. Whack away at a ball sitting on a tee.
So-
You're never going to learn to hit.
So it's clear that you aren't running for governor. after
Nah,
that
that's
statement.
it. I lost the vote. I lost all of the deciding votes. Nah, I'm not going to do that. No.
Well, actually, I think he decided that when he agreed to come on the show.
I did.
Pretty much.
Look what we did to Ross Stereo.
Absolutely.
Ovid was on the show too early
Yeah,
on.
we're
I
the
guess
kiss of death.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
now we know.
Yeah. Same with Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith was on there, so therefore,
John's hanging in there, though.
I'm gonna make a
He
note.
got reelected.
yeah, make a note.
I was yes. Well, I didn't admit that I was actually on there.
That's why.
And it's not
I just
broadcasting.
don't, yeah, I don't
Goffstown.
tell anybody.
Right.
Right, I don't like it on Facebook.
That's smart.
I read it, but I just like
He doesn't even like
okay.
his own Facebook like.
Right. Yeah, he deletes it when it shows up on his.
That wasn't me.
Yes,
It's wrong, John Eichel.
that's the wrong one. You get the wrong guy. Right.
Anyway, so you guys are causing trouble Saturday. You want to give us the gist of your troublemaking escapade?
Yeah, I've been talking too much. John, why don't you take the lead on that?
I'm actually honored to be sitting here with Jack and you guys too, but you two also. But Jack, we all know Jack. Jack Kimball ran for governor. I remember when he first said he was going to run. I think I might have done a first interview, one of the first. I mean, he came to visit us in Goffstown. Anyway, I think an awful lot of Jack.
So you do know Jack. So if somebody says,
I do know
So
Jack.
do know
he
Jack.
could sell me a gun. too,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I could sell him a gun. Yes,
Oh, give me one.
I could sell you one
Okay. I got it.
wow, that changed quickly.
Yeah.
because we're friends. 'cause we're
I'm sure
friends.
he sells you
Right.
at a fair price.
Yes,
That's
I
all
give it
true.
to you for a fair price.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
I was on here the last time, and we talked about our oath of office, right? I talked
Oh, yeah.
on your show, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about the oath, and it's still in me somewhere that this oath is being violated. That this oath is not being, the oath that is taken isn't being practiced in the legislature to support the Constitution of the United States of America and New Hampshire. So that's when I heard Jack was having an honor your oath rally. So I contacted him. We talked a little bit. I told him I sponsored a bill for this. You're doing this rally. Let's get together. We had a meeting and realized that we're really attacking the same problem in a very similar way. And with his experience and conversation and mine, and we got together and another friend of ours, and we just came up with some really great ideas, I think.
So go ahead.
Well, I just going to say, most of the time when I get up in front of people, I talk about the oath that I took when I was in the Navy, which is to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the oath for us veterans didn't end the day we left the military. I mean,
technically, though, if you, my dad was a jarhead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a tough childhood. Let me tell you.
Pick on me.
So, his oath of office, does that legally, that doesn't end? I mean, your obligation to the military ends at a certain point.
That's right.
But your oath of office doesn't end, discontinue just because you're
right.
No longer.
They don't de-oath you. Right. When you're discharged. I mean, and that's important. But beyond that, I started to think, we're going at this the wrong way. I mean, we really need to take a look at the oaths of office that everybody takes. And I'm talking the chiefs of police, the sheriffs, our legislators, military, and so forth. And that's the other thing that John was already doing. I had no idea. That was the funny part, because we didn't know that each of us was doing this. And he saw my notification on the Honor Your Oath rally, and that's how we got together. But he was right where I was on this. And I decided that, the basic common tenet for everyone that takes the oath is to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution. It's all of them are basically the same with respect to that. And so when you look at legislation, HB 135 is the one I admit was the catalyst for this, because it is so, to me, it was just egregious. Leave it alone. When you start to tinker a little bit or a lot of it with the Second Amendment or the Constitution, that's unconstitutional. You want to change the Constitution, there's a process to do it.
Right.
And it's a pretty hefty process if you want to amend the Constitution. But you start tinkering around with it by trying to pass laws that are an infringement upon it. And that's where I draw my line. I said, no, this has to stop. If you're taking an oath to uphold it, don't go in and sponsor a bill which in effect violates it. And so I said, we've got to start where the beginning is with all of these people. And that is, honor your oath. I mean, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, our common basis of agreement should be that we should expect of our legislators and the people who take that oath, bare minimally, that they honor it.
Right.
And then if they decide not to honor it, that they don't deserve to be there anymore. So that's basically where we're at. We're saying, you know what, I'm sorry, and I don't care if it's all 189 who voted for it. We've got to start to make people understand that integrity matters in this country, and we've lost it. And we've lost it in Washington. We've lost it in a lot of the states. And so my particular position is we've got to start from the beginning. And yeah, all of these things that occurred in the past are the past now. But this is now the here and now. And if we don't start standing up, we're going to lose this republic. And so a lot of people out there are angry at me that are in my party. I'm a conservative Republican. This isn't about my party. Are they going to be maybe fighting to protect the party and so forth? Hey, look, I'm fighting to protect and restore our republic. I'm fighting for my country. That's how I see this. There's a big, big difference in where we're approaching this. I say it often now. We've got to start blurring the R and the D, and we got to start acting like Americans again, and with a fervor. And unfortunately, and my daughter lives right down in Boston.
Yeah. And
I was so petrified the other day, because that's where she would be. She would be right there at that finish line. She didn't go because two of her friends decided not to go and meet her, and she was going to go and she didn't. But my heart was pounding.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But at the same time, you saw America. You saw so many people jumping over that fence. I mean, I was in tears and ripping that fence out of there. It didn't matter. They didn't care. Exactly. And they didn't care if it was a Republican bleeding or a Democrat bleeding or a Libertarian bleeding. They were Americans, and they were going to help them, by God, and that's what this country's got to get to, and we got to damn stay there. I'm sick and tired of the divisiveness that we're seeing, and it's intentional.
Well, I think one of the I know you're on a tirade, so I hate to interrupt.
That's all right. I'll calm down.
But
it's a good one, though. I'm with you.
I'm
with you. I like what you're saying. Yeah.
one of the things that have bothered me since, like, if John knows me has known me for a long time,
Yeah.
I don't really care about ours. Okay, I watched the party take down Bob Smith. They just threw him to the wolves. Why? Because they wanted Sununu in. Okay, so that wasn't about principle. If you want to look at, if you looked at the Republican platform and looked how Bob Smith voted, he was more constitutional than anybody in almost anybody in D.C.
Good man.
He's a very good man.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the New Hampshire party, quote unquote, took him down deliberately so that they could put their people in office. So I have no regard for the party. I have a lot of regard for the Constitution and the party platform.
Yep.
I don't even agree with that 100%, but I don't know anybody who does. But anyway, so I fundamentally agree that people need to quit looking at the Constitution as a living document that we can interpret differently. But I do have an issue with what you're doing, and I'll give you an example. In a few weeks, we're going to vote on a gambling bill.
Mhm.
If the gambling bill from what I understand, comes through the way it's intended, it will come through to basically build a casino in Rockingham Park.
Mhm.
There will be a few investors that come up with the money to build this casino. That's correct as far as
So far that I
we're
know.
on board.
Yep.
On the 10th Amendment of the New Hampshire Constitution says that government is not to be used for the private emolument of any one group or parties.
Mhm.
If we vote for that casino, we are voting contrary to the Constitution, because the Constitution says government can't be used to create binopolies, monopolies for any one group. Are we going to react the same? I know the gun issue to me is more important, because that, like we agree, that's the teeth of the Constitution. Are we going to react the same way when people vote for that gambling bill?
Well, I think that my response to that is, and that's a good point, and I think that we've got to be as serious about that as we are about this, so we have to be consistent. But I have to believe that what we're doing here is making people look over their shoulders and say, ooh. And that's where, in the House, they've got to start understanding that there are other people outside that are going to really scrutinize. I think that we've got to make sure that in the House that, I've never been for casino gambling in the state. When I was running for governor, I was against it. I think it brings more problems than it does solutions, and I think that's another reason as a businessman, we're broke. I mean, we're broke. We're broke in the country. The states are all struggling. The state's still going to struggle. People aren't going to be. You've got a lot of the casinos, even in Connecticut now, are really hurting. Now they had to try to subsidize. This is nutty.
Yeah.
We've got to understand that this is, to me, just common sense wise, doesn't make sense anyway. But constitutionally, you're right about that. So we have to look at this stuff, and we got to make sure that our reps, both on both sides of the fence, take a good hard look at this stuff from now on. That's part of our goal. We've got to make sure they know that we're going to be breathing down their necks.
Now, are you going to?
Gary, can I just say something? I don't think that I just have to rebut a little bit of what you said.
You want to step outside?
No, we'll do it right here, right now.
All right.
Oh, ratings.
Ratings, right? Right. Well, 3 people watching this.
Okay, go ahead.
HB 35 is really, first of all, to let the folks know, HB 35 is the legislation to repeal the Stand Your Ground.
135.
135, HB 135, is the bill to repeal Stand Your Ground.
Right.
Article 2A of the New Hampshire Constitution is very clear in what it says, that we all have the right to protect ourselves, our family. We have the right not just to bear arms, but to protect ourselves. Everybody has that right. And those aren't rights that are given to us. Well, that was actually an amendment that was made in 1982.
Yes,
Now,
Representative Crow Dickinson.
HB 135 diminishes our rights
Right.
to protect ourselves. And under Article 3 of the Constitution, if we give up some of our rights in society, and I understand that, but if you give up some of your rights, then somebody better fill in that spot that you're giving up your rights. So and the Supreme Court has said that nobody has any they don't have to protect us. Nobody has to protect us,
Right.
right?
So therefore,
if you take that away from us,
on Article 3.
if you take that away from us, our ability to stand our ground and make that split second decision, you put us in a position where nobody may be protecting us, nobody can protect us, and you're violating our rights, and that's what happened with this.
No, I agree that fundamentally,
So-
unless you're going to put snipers on every rooftop to pick off a possible criminal.
No, yeah, but we don't need all that. So I went and filed a redress petition.
Okay.
And redress petition under Article 31 of the New Hampshire Constitution says that the purpose of the legislature to assemble is to redress,
It's for the redress of
redress of grievances.
Correct.
And to make legislation to prevent the government from damaging the people again.
Right. That's also federal.
Correct.
Right.
So, I mean, everything that's happening in this HB 135, I believe, is unconstitutional.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
So, but the redress part of this is really the most powerful thing. You can go on www.nhdredress.info,
Okay.
and you'd be able to see what we're doing in the petition.
We have a
You
Geiger
can actually sign that
wait,
petition.
John, we got a Geiger counter.
we had to see how bad the earthquake is.
All right, let's keep going.
Hi, welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hey, Matt, it's Ross. How's it going, Chief?
Hey, Ross.
Hey, Ross!
How are you?
Excellent. Hey, I just checked to see if you were able to copy those TV shows for me.
I got the email that you sent me, but I haven't been able to actually download them.
Well, you can't, or just not a chance yet?
No, I haven't been able to figure out how to do it.
Okay, but I had the same problem. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not dumb then.
No, I'm having
Wait. The second part of that doesn't necessarily follow.
Gary, I'm really disappointed in you. So we had dinner the other week, and you didn't even leave the waiter a tip, the poor guy.
Gary.
Friends of the working man.
Yeah, that's because you were
Anyways,
supposed
I'll let you go, and
to.
I'll listen to your answer.
All right, thanks, Ross. The Honorable Gary S. Hopper not
Yes.
leaving a tip.
No, well, he got like drinks and stuff. We went to last week. We went down to.
I think we're about to hear this is true.
Yeah, it is true.
Oh.
With
Yeah,
an
we-
excuse attached.
We
to
went
it.
downstairs to eat afterwards, and the really funny thing was we walked into. I'm not going to name the place because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But Ross and I walk in, and the lady before and ahead of us says, "Can I sit where the gay waiter is?" And I've never heard that in all my life.
Saw that on Facebook, yeah.
Nor do I call. Nor do I care. But on Facebook, I said, "So are we going to go in and say, can I have gay waiter versus heterosexual waiter instead of non-smoking or smoking?" It was just the funniest.
Yeah,
thing.
that is weird. That
It
is
was
weird.
really, really weird.
I just assume a lot of waiters are gay.
I don't know.
We have another call. Hi, welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
I hate that person.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Former Representative Barbara Hagan. I just want to
Hi,
thank
Barb.
you.
I love you, by the way.
I love you guys. Thank you so much for having this discussion. Thank you. Because this is not about, I've caught some bits and pieces here, but this is not about whether we, are liberty-thinking people and we think people ought to be able to go gamble away their money if they want to or not. This is about a decision for the state of New Hampshire to become a partner, as a government becomes a partner of an enterprise, that I don't agree is going to solve all of our problems. So I am so happy to hear you say what you are saying here. And as a former state rep who served 2 terms, I am also very happy to hear you guys talk about the fact that this is not about Republicans and it's not about Democrats. It's about people who care about what is constitutional and what is going to benefit us as a government by the people, for the people, of the people. And there were so many times when I felt like I was banging my head against the wall when I was in that state house. Particularly, I think I introduced 5 or 6 bills to repeal taxes. And at the time, we had Republicans who were in charge, who were sitting on Ways and Means and different committees who were looking at me going, oh, goodness, how are we going to cut these? How are we going to cut these? You know, I think I reduced something by a penny or 2 pennies. It was to make a point, but it was also to try to say we need to give back to the people so that they can have the power here and not have government deciding where this money is going to be spent.
Yep.
And it was so frustrating. So I just want to thank you. I think you're doing a huge educational job here this evening, and with your program. And I'm so happy to have all of you having this very important discussion, especially with this gambling situation that's facing us. We don't need to have this in New Hampshire. All we need to do is look at all of the other states who have adopted it to find out that it's not a good thing. But by the same token, the bottom line is, constitutionally, government should not be in a partnership with this type of a private enterprise situation. If they want to do it, then approach it from a private situation and leave government out. So God bless all of you, and thank you for the program.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
And we didn't pay her to call in or anything.
No.
Okay, that's not
No, she was. She and I had the same frustration. I think she was. We were in there. I think she was first elected in 2000 with me, and in 2002 she got reelected. And we had a supermajority, and we still couldn't get like she said. You'd talk about reducing taxes. They go, what? What do you mean reduce taxes? What are you, crazy?
You know, I talked to a lot of the reps, and John's one of them. And what she just expressed, I mean, John will talk. He's frustrated too. I mean, it really is, to me, a sign of things that are broken, and that I don't know how we fix them, John. But
I don't either. I do know how we fix them, and we call in the.
Oh, that's part of it.
It's one way to fix it, because if we just keep going back and forth with this tennis match, we'll never get anything solved.
But is it possible to take like House Bill 130?
You make your legislators accountable, hold them to their oath of office, and tell them, if you lie to the people, the ones that voted you in here, Democrat, Republican, if you lie to the people that put you in office, you're going to pay the price, and you're going to leave, and you're going to have to leave.
What I'm getting at is it possible? Because come election time, okay, people listen to all the crap that's out there, and this guy's evil because he got caught walking his dog, and his dog wasn't on a leash, and the dog got loose and got hit by a truck. Whatever, they'll come up with some crappy story that's totally irrelevant to policy, and just hammer somebody with it. Okay? Is it ever going to be possible to have an informed electorate? In other words, say that this is House Bill 135. This is the Constitution. These are the people that voted for it. Your legislator, like in my district, it would be Neil, Evelyn, and myself. These are your legislators. These people voted against. This person voted against your constitutional right, and these people voted for it. And exactly why, without all the garbage and the fluff and they hate you and all this other stuff, but just have an intelligent conversation with the voters so they know what's going on up there.
See, you're hitting on something I think that is probably the most profound.
Profound?
No, this is profound.
Well, he said you said something profound.
Oh.
That doesn't mean you're profound all the time.
You're right on. You're right on target with respect. We really do have an electorate that is ill-informed, and what information they get is so slanted, But if anything, as angry as I am that this president got reelected, I'm angrier at the people that put him in.
The fact that he could get elected is amazing.
The fact that he's reelected would have been impossible for us to conceive. And then we look at this, and when they do these reporter on the street things, and they just ambush people coming down, talk to them about who's the vice. They don't even know who the vice president is, but they'll tell you who the winner or the runner-up is. American Idol,
right?
But they will. And so the problem, as I see it, is people have become lazy. They certainly have taken their liberty and freedom for granted. I mean, all the blood and the treasure that has been expended to provide all of us with the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness that we have experienced in this country has really been taken for granted in a large way. Recently, a lot of the younger folks have no idea what the Constitution's about. We have been indoctrinating in our federally mandated education system rather than educating, and we've got to get to local control. But the education, the informational part of this, we've got to get really a lot better at this. And it starts, in my estimation, with local control schools and getting a curriculum in there that teaches the kids about the history of this country and our Constitution and where we come from. Right now, we've lost it. And my fear is that just these little sound bites and the way that they're easily swayed and the lemmings that are walking over the cliff, I'm very worried for our country right now. And I don't know how we pull all that back quickly. And that's why I'm very fearful. But we have a lot of work to do, and we've got to change this up. And it's taken about 30 years to get here. I hope it doesn't take 30 years to get it back.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think this apathy that people have, I don't think it's anything new. I mean, I've been noticing that my whole adult life, really, you know. I mean, it probably does get worse.
But in the informational age of today, where you can jump on, and the kids are far better at it than I am, where you can jump on the internet and find out information in a nanosecond, and they still don't do it.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because there's so much information. I think this is part of the problem. I don't know how you solve it, but there's so much information that everyone's got these short attention spans. So we live in this soundbite-driven culture where, you know, a lot of people get their news from Twitter now, and Twitter, that's 140 characters that you can tweet out at a time. So if you're getting your news from Twitter, you're getting information in these very small bits.
And the other problem with that is not only are you getting in small bits and in sound bites or 10-second radio ads, 30-second TV ads. The fact of the matter is nobody knows who to trust anymore anyway.
Yeah, right. You don't know how accurate it is.
Yeah, but you can go back to this book all the time. You can go to the Secretary of State's office, you can go to your bookstore, you can buy a New Hampshire Constitution.
You can get it online.
You can get it online. It's online. It's free. Read it. I mean, if you have questions about how government should run, Part 1 and Part 2 of the Constitution will tell you how this is the rule book of how our government is supposed to run and how we're supposed to give the legislation. Right. It's not being taught in schools.
No.
They give one of these to the fourth graders when they go through on their tour. I don't know if they read it, because I was reading the last one that they made before this, for instance. And a couple teachers had actually done a summary of what the Constitution is. And I would tell you, I have some very different thoughts on how this book is summarized as opposed to how they were summarizing it. But they didn't include it in this version for some reason. But read it. I mean, Article 38. You talk about people being uninformed, and they are. And I think that starts a long time before they become 18 years old.
Look at Article 6. Read Article 6.
Article 6, Part 1, Article 6.
Yeah.
Of the lottery, no, Part 1, Article 6.
Yeah.
So we go into here. As morality and piety rightly grounded on high principles will give the best and greatest security to government.
Okay, stop. That right there tells you what's going on. It is absolutely necessary for our government to exist that people understand, they're moral and informed. We have traded the liberty of responsibility for the liberty of self-indulgence. The liberty that Washington fought for, where they walked through Valley Forge, some of them with cloth wrapped around their feet to try to keep from freezing. They did not fight for liberty so that people could get free condoms. If the people at Valley Forge understood what today's people believe liberty is, they would have gone home. There is no way they would have risked everything they had, risked their family, risked their lives, so that people could get free condoms.
And the amazing thing about this book that's lasted all these years, this Constitution, with very few amendments being made, one doesn't contradict the other. They flow. It's a well written book of articles that flow together, that are able to make up our entire way that our government is run. And Article 38 is probably one of my, other than 31 saying that the purpose of the legislature to meet, which is pretty important. So all the other things that we go and meet on are not constitutional, for
Correct.
instance. But Article 38, probably the most important one, a frequent reoccurrence to the fundamental principles of the Constitution, and a constant adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, industry, frugality, and all the social virtues are indispensably necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty and good government. The people ought, therefore, to have a particular regard for all of those principles in the choice of their officers and representatives, and they have the right to require of their lawgivers and magistrates an exact and constant observance of them in the formation and execution of the laws necessary for the good administration of government. Not for good government, for the good administration of government.
Right.
And Article 38, I think Article 38 is right up there with the number one, right behind the Second Amendment, obviously, gives us the right to be able to read all of this. But 31 gives us the idea of what we assemble for. 38 tells us that you better be answer to the people, and you need to follow this book.
Well, if you look at 6 and 38 together, you see that the common thread is the necessity for a self-controlled population. And I gave this is my example I give people when I'm trying to explain that to them. You walk in as a grandfather into the Walmart. You have a 10-year-old grandson with you. The 10-year-old grandson is well behaved. You can rely on it. I mean, and no more than a normal kid, but I mean, he's a good kid. You're walking over to see if they got any ammo at Walmart. You know they don't, but you go over there anyway, just in hopes that they do.
Right.
You take a walk over there, and the kid says, Grandpa, can I look at the toys while you're looking for the ammo? If that child is well behaved, you say, yeah, go ahead, okay? And then I'll come get you after I'm done. No problem. Same scenario, the kid can't control himself, okay? Then the answer is, well, if you behave yourself while I'm going to check the ammo, I'll let you look at the toys on the way out. Right? It's okay. That's fundamentally what the founding fathers believed. You have to have a moral people who are self-controlled. Mm-hmm. And if they are self-controlled, you need very, very limited government to control them. The people that are the outliers, the people that aren't in control. You need, like most law enforcement in the New Hampshire, probably 100 years ago, was as a guy who put a badge on once every month in case he had to arrest Bob because he got too drunk and put him in for the night or something like that, so he doesn't hurt himself. We are become so we have become so self-indulgent and so perverse. The government has grown exponentially to compensate for that, and that's why we end up with such a threat to the Second Amendment.
And all the amendments, you take away the Second Amendment, you might as well kiss all of them.
Oh, the others are gone once that's gone.
There's no hope after that, and that's why people need to understand. We're John and I and many others. We have about 750 people at that rally, and that's only I'm sure a small percentage of what we probably have on board right now. They get it. And we've got to continue and make this grow. But you bring up a great point, and that is, we don't have that kind of fidelity now from these people. So it's really up to us to start calling them out. I don't see any other way to do it. This is the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. We're doing it not by force of arms. We're doing it the way it should be done. And we hope that others will see the light. Now, we're going to sit and wait and see what happens with the complaints that we have filed. Others are being filed. We got a lot of the petitions, so we got every county.
I've got over 500 signatures on petitions.
In different we got 9 different counties represented.
Is it possible to gather enough resources to actually, instead of waiting to campaign season, because if you wait to campaign season, it's too late, to send postcards out periodically to just voters in any given town, and explaining this is what the Second Amendment is about. It is there not only as so that you can protect yourself, but to maintain the balance of power in the hands of the people. These are your elected officials. This is the House bill, and this is how they voted. And that way, if it's like this in the next 4 months, okay, it's not campaign season. They're seeing this go, whoa, I wonder what that is.
Actual
It's
information.
actual information. And as long as it's not slanted, it says, yes, they voted, no, they didn't vote. That way,
I mean, there's plenty of organizations to do that. We don't.
well, yeah, but they always wait till just before election season. Nobody believes anything.
Well, we can get, and I know that we can get a couple of the folks that we know that are out there and get a lot of coverage. They're bloggers, but in fact, I think it was Skip from Granite Rock said, we're going to have a list of oath breakers, and what it is that where we feel they broke their oaths and put the list out. But we've got the clean list, and like John says, there are others that there are organizations that we can talk with that probably would do that. And you're right, though. It can't be partisan. We got to get to a point where people can understand that John and I are putting our necks out there too, because there's Republicans and Democrats on that list. This isn't
Sure.
This is
Absolutely nothing to do with politics.
right. I mean,
This has nothing to do with party.
we're going after these people because of what they did
We've
with
got
respect to
Democrats.
our rights in the Constitution.
Democrats want to stand their ground too. Democrats want to support the Constitution. Democrats and Republicans. So this has nothing to do with
Well,
partisan
we've only got
politics.
like 4 minutes left. I got to wrap. John, thank you. Jack, thank you, because now I can say no, Jack.
You can sell me a gun now.
I
Not
don't-
not quite.
No.
All right. Okay.
Not on the air anyway.
No, not in the air. That'd be
He'll give you
Yeah,
one.
that'd be weird, actually. Yeah.
NHredress.info.
Okay.
Please check that site out, folks.
You guys are awesome. Keep up the good fight. We'll see you next. Hey, next week I'm going to be gone. My wife's taking me away. You could have Ross on,
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's a good idea.
and you could do the taping.
That's
I told you that thing about.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'll get in touch with him. I'll see if he's available.
All right.
That's a great idea.
You guys, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Keep up the good work.
for having us.
See you in 2
everybody.
weeks, folks.